Welcome to the Rising for Women podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Merlo-Booth, and I believe the world will be changed for women when we change how we walk in it. So each week, we're going to have hard conversations. We're going to explore new options. Some of them are going to be hard options, and we're going to have some real, straight talk. We're going to do that because I have faith that women can handle it. Hey everybody, welcome to the Rising Podcast for Women. I'm Lisa Merlo-Booth. With me is Arlene Newman and Dee Marcotte, and we are your hosts. So the last podcast we did was on affairs, and we were talking about affairs, what happens when you are the one who's being betrayed. So today is part 2 on affairs, and today we're going to talk about women who betray and women who are having affairs or almost having affairs or thinking about having affairs. So big topic. We see this all the time, in all of our practices. We work with a lot of affairs, and let's kind of jump in a little bit. So let's start for a moment around what we know about why women have affairs, because, there's a lot that are having them. There are a lot of women who will say, oh my God, this is not me. I can't believe I'm cheating. What's going on? There's just a lot of reasons that women are having affairs that tend to be different from men. Men tend to cheat and have affairs. It often is more physical. That is the thing that's leading them out. That's not the case for women. So let's talk a little bit, why are women turning to affairs? And, I don't know. Why are women turning to affairs? What do you guys think?
They've given up on their own relationship. They believe they've tried all different kinds of ways to say they want their partner to show up, and they haven't. And so then they go with more intention to look for an affair.
Okay. All right. So I see women, and studies are showing that women are going because they want emotional connection. Mm-hmm. And they sadly can't get it or they're not getting it in their relationships.
Mm-hmm. That's what I see. Mm-hmm. More than anything else, that's what I see, that they feel emotionally starved in their relationships, and they are completely, I think, as you said, they've given up on being able to try and get it. They don't know how. The men are often emotionally disconnected. They're much more into the whole idea of fixing your problem, and everything that we've talked about before that tends to happen in a relationship that's not working. So they go for that contact and that connection, mm-hmm. that you have in the beginning of somebody that you're attracted to.
I think what you just said at that last part is so important, that you have at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes. Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't last. Seldom does it last. Mm-hmm. And and I think, we've touched upon this piece in many of our talks about how many men really struggle to show up emotionally. Mm-hmm. So the women aren't they're not making it up, right? And many of the women are trying to talk to their husbands. They are trying, or again, we're not just talking about heterosexual relationships. Mm-hmm. We're also talking about, bi, homosexual relationship, any relationship. So it could be with a man or a woman. And women tend to, if they're going to cheat, they tend to cheat because emotionally they feel like they are not getting their needs met. And many women who feel like they aren't getting their needs met are going outside the relationship and turn to friendships. They may not quite go to affairs, but in general, when women aren't getting their needs met in the relationship, they're trying to find them, trying to get those needs met outside the relationship in some way. So of course, affairs is one way to do that. What's fascinating though, Arlene, about what you just said is they tend to pick men who they think can be emotionally connected with them.
Mhm.
And what we all know about this is that a lot of men can be emotionally connected for that first initial
Mhm.
stage,
Mhm.
and then that goes away.
Mhm.
What do you guys see that?
I don't think any of those relationships with the marriage relationships would have worked if the men couldn't do it initially. There
Mhm.
is that excitement that opens people up, and then they're able to connect. But if they don't really have the tools and the skills, are emotionally mature, they close up again, and then there is this terrible disappointment and emptiness that
Yeah.
both can feel.
Yeah.
And
I
and
think there's
what's a
also
quicker fix? What's a quicker fix than a very exciting,
Yeah.
right? An exciting affair.
Passionate,
Yeah,
right? Somebody
like
like
it
saying,
fills all the holes. It's
right,
almost like it's like heroin. I think it's that
right.
powerful.
They're telling you how attractive you are, how beautiful you are. Oh my gosh, just like all the things. You don't have the pressure of kids and life and money and stress. It's like you just have this little moment where, you know, there's nothing except, oh, this is so fun. It's so fantasy and not reality in any way. What were you gonna say, Dee?
I wish I could remember.
I have those moments, yes.
You know, I'm calling them a pandemic moment these days.
Much better.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing is, I was going to talk about people, when you get into the affair, the person is curious about you. They're interested in you.
Mhm.
And they don't make the assumption that I think happens in a long-term relationship, that I know everything about you.
Yeah.
And so we stop being curious and interested, even if we once were. And so now it's, you know, I hear a lot, well, he's just not interested in anything I have to say, or she's just not interested, you know, she doesn't care. She says she knows, or he knows, or, so I think there's that piece. I think the other piece is, I hear a lot, if it's a heterosexual relationship, men saying, well, it's just work. When she says, so how was your day?
Oh, right. Yeah.
And it's kind of like, you were at your work, whether physically or now at home, for 9 hours to say nothing.
Yes.
Like, again, it feels like you've been gone all day and I don't get to know anything about you.
Right. And on the flip side of that, I have had partners say, I don't want to know about his or her work. It's boring. I don't want, you know, and so there's a lot of things that start to get couples, you know, to start drifting. I also see, in particular with women, I don't see this nearly as much with men. When women are cheating, I see a righteousness about it. Like they feel like they had no other choice. He's been such a son of a bitch, or he's been ... that, you know, I had to get my needs met one way or another. And they like, when I'll say, you had 1,000 of you know, you had many other options. You could have put the marriage on hold, you could have separated, you could have divorced, you could have said we need to get into treatment, and they'll say, I have kids and I can't give that
That's
up.
right.
And, you know, he wouldn't go to therapy anyway, or things like that. And so they feel very justified in what they're doing. What
Can
do
I
you guys
just
think about that?
say, I'm sorry.
No,
I
go ahead.
think that's absolutely true. What I was going to say was, and I think what happens then as a part of that is someone connects with you on Facebook.
Yeah. How many old high school boyfriends and stuff?
Old high school.
Oh my God.
God.
It's from high school, most of them.
It's from high school.
It is.
And it's like, oh, you know, we were so great in high school. I'm like, well, you didn't make it. It was
right. I think it's all those teenage hormones. I don't know. We go back to that, you know, it's so funny.
Yeah. So I just think with all of this, then there's sort of, besides the fantasy of what an affair will be, it's the fantasy of going back to that time, like you were saying, stuff where I don't have many, you know, have to worry about the money. I don't have to worry about the kids. I don't have to, like, this was the footloose and fancy free
Yeah.
time. And so it's even like sort of a double fantasy.
Well, and I also wonder if, they go back to these high school romances in part because they were fun back then, meaning like now so many of these women lose themselves in their marriage. Like they kind of shut down, they quiet, they're not as funny as they used to be, they're not as outgoing as they used to be because of, their husband doesn't find it funny or their partner doesn't. And so when they go back to these high school, romances, in some ways they have it's comfortable because this person knows them, and they know them at a time in their life when they felt like they were like, a hot shit, so to speak, and so they go back to that piece as well. I wonder, I don't really know, but it is so common, these high school ones, not even college, it's high school ones,
High school,
which
absolutely high
is
school.
so fascinating.
Maybe
you know?
that's when you kind of first come to really focus on your sexuality and on the
Yeah,
opposite sex, and it's very exciting.
right.
And if you have a connection at that point, it's like it takes you over. It's so all encompassing,
Yeah, it's so intense. And so, you
so
go back and it's
intense.
like,
Mhm.
that's so
It
funny.
fills all the holes. It can fill all the
Right,
holes
right.
that you
Yeah.
have to deal with if you're in a long-term relationship that's not working that well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The emptiness.
So another piece that that I see women do is they will have affairs even with men who are in marriages, right? So that often happens, or with women who are in other relationships. And so what they'll say is, oh, their marriage wasn't working anyway. She's a bitch, or his wife never listens to him, or, and so they'll excuse their piece in being in this relationship with a married man because it wasn't a good marriage over there. And what are your thoughts about that?
I think that's what they
Which
hear.
part of it, Lisa? Which part of it are you?
So they hear that this marriage over there isn't great, right? That's what the 9 times out of 10, that's what the person's saying. What do you
Right.
think? Do you, like, my experience over there is that that's what they say. It's like
Of course.
in order for you to have an affair, there's this automatic thing that you do where you start to demonize your partner, right? And you start to demonize your marriage. Oh, we're like, we don't get along ever, we're not, it's so bad, and she's so horrible, and blah 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 blah. And it kind of makes it easier for the person to do that, but seldom is that partner so miserable or horrible. And even if they are, you're still inserting yourself into somebody else's family.
Not only that, you're inserting yourself into their family, but at the same time, that you would be that abandoning of yourself to say, I'll be in a relationship with someone who talks a good game, but really isn't available.
Right.
Well, they may not be really interested in somebody who is fully available, especially if they're still in a relationship. They just want that. They want that high. I really think of it as like an addiction. You go for a fix. You're not really looking for a whole other relationship. You're looking to feel better, to feel more alive, to feel more wanted or desired. And you can get that. And I think, to go back to your question, to me, it's like if you're only hearing that, you have to be very suspicious. If the guy is not saying, I don't know how to have a relationship, I'm really having trouble and I just can't if they're taking more responsibility for their part and they're blaming their wife, it's a story.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel at all real and legitimate to me.
Yeah.
So is it like, but if I stay in denial and I believe that allows me to say, well, I'm not inserting myself. It's already terrible. Like
Right.
it sounds like a good way to be in denial and excuse
Mhm.
that I'm agreeing to be in an affair that is in the middle of someone's relationship.
Right.
Mhm.
It lets you off the hook. It allows you to live with yourself a little bit more.
Mhm.
So let's talk a little bit about what women aren't thinking. The other side of it, right? So Arlene, you said that it's like a high, and the positive side is in affairs, chances are the sex is great, right? I always tell my couples, if your partner had an affair, don't ask them about the sex. Whether it was the woman or the man, whoever cheated, don't ask them about the sex. um so the sex is great. They tend to pay a lot of attention to you. You tend to feel more sexy, more attractive if you're the guy. Like there's just a lot to it. Um, but let's talk about kind of the things that aren't spoken about. Let's talk about the other side to this, because I get these women in my office, and men, but we'll talk about the women. And the women come in, and after the affair, when it's caught, they feel terrible. They the wreckage that it costs in their family, and if their children find out, it just puts an enormous strain on families, an enormous strain on children, and an internal strain on the people who cheat, whether a male or female. That heaviness and that fantasy goes away really quick when it's discovered.
Mhm.
And so let's talk a little bit about that. What do you think women don't know or don't think about before they're having affairs? And what are some of the costs to this?
I think you just kind of summed it up. I think their life is a wreck afterwards. I think they feel guilty and ashamed and terrible. I think the relationship suffers. It's a terrible betrayal to the partner. I think the children are devastated the way that they see their parents, especially if it's the mother. I think that it's a terrible, terrible blow
Yeah.
for them. It's devastating afterwards. Devastating.
Yeah.
I think there's a during it though. Like while you're having this high and everything's great, you're lying to your children. You're lying to your partner. I mean, most people aren't pathological liars.
Right.
And so that takes an internal toll just on that idea of, you said it earlier, Lisa, this doesn't go along with my values. This isn't who I believe myself to be. And so I think no matter what you're getting out of it, on the other side, this is also tearing your insides down.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, there's a lot of I think there's a lot of PTSD around affairs that aren't talked about. And I think the PTSD goes both ways. I've seen people who have cheated who have just like really have a hard time, kind of rationalizing it and coming to grips with themselves because it's not who they thought they were. I've seen people who were betrayed that were devastated, thinking that I thought this was a partner that I could trust, and they should have been the safest person, and they're the ones that have caused me the most pain in my life. Like there's just a lot that happens with it. The bottom line, this podcast is really about a grounded, powerful strength. And what's happening with affairs is the antithesis of a grounded, powerful strength. What's happening is you're avoiding problems, you're avoiding solutions, you're avoiding standing up and kind of, stepping into your power and walking with integrity and honoring your worth and the worth of those around you. You're just going right past that. And if you are unhappy in your marriage and you go outside your marriage, there is no reason to believe that the same issues aren't going to show up outside your marriage. I have worked with couples after who had an affair together, left their marriages, and then came to me because this relationship was struggling, because our issues follow us everywhere. Right. And so, women, what I would say is, no matter how much of a you believe your spouse is a jerk, you going outside of the relationship is going to just lead to different issues and different problems. It's not going to, you're not going to feel really good in your skin, and you're not going to feel really healthy and grounded no matter which way you go. Once you're in an affair, you kind of like, you put yourself in this place that has a lot of detrimental cost to it, that the high kind of muddies.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it again, like a drug, you know, when you're drugged up, you don't see reality clearly. You're high. You're literally high.
Right.
And that's what happens when you have that initial kind of connection. You chemically, you're high. So you're not thinking straight. You're not really thinking about anything. You're not thinking about your own future and your relationship and this person and how what you know about nothing. It all goes out the window.
Yeah. And when you come down, it's a hard fall.
And I think that's the thing. I think especially, I think at least the women I've had have been in kind of more longer term affairs often. And so they get a sense of invulnerability. Like I haven't been caught for a year, so I'm not going to.
Right.
And so I think as we're talking about this piece, women understand that it is highly unlikely this will not be found out.
Right. You know? At some point down the road, it will be discovered. And then you got to really be careful, because there's no justification for affairs. That's the bottom line. There's no justification. You can go to your partner and you can put your relationship on hold. You can say, listen, I'm really attracted to somebody. I don't know what's going on, but I need space to figure this out. That would be an integrity. That would be hard for your partner. That would certainly be a very difficult conversation. However, you're honest, and then you see what they're going to do, right? You can ask for a divorce if you're that unhappy. If you're worried about finances and what the divorce, you can see a lawyer and figure out what you need to do in order to make things happen. But once you go outside your marriage, you're off. It doesn't matter what your reasoning is. There is no reasoning that allows you to move out of integrity and justify it, because you will feel the hit. It internally, it is going to come back. And if you want an open relationship, you ask for an open relationship. Like, there's lots of different ways that you can do this without cheating. And the piece where the man or the woman, the affair partner, is saying that his spouse is, or her spouse is horrible, you got to take that with a grain of salt. And you need to know, you know, I said this before, the statistics are astronomical. When one person has an affair, the statistics of them having a second affair is like over 200%. I mean, I don't have that statistic with me. I often say it, but it's like over 200%. So the chance that he or she's going to be faithful to you if you guys get together is slim to none. And if you're thinking that you don't care, you just want this because you need an out and you want the excitement and you want fun, and that's just, then you want to slow down and really figure out like what lives are being impacted by your wake, right? And tune in to you, like, how does it feel when you're not in the high? How does that feel? Right? because there's a lot of detrimental things that I think women don't think about when they jump in. They jump in because it's like, he's so hot or she's so hot or whatever, right?
It's so hot. The whole thing is
It's
hot.
so hot,
The
right?
whole
It
thing
feels
is
so
hot.
good.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm. I think there's also a piece in terms of what's the cost, is that I don't know about you guys, but I would say a very, very high percentage of people in my office who have had an affair, either someone like one of their parents or their grandparents
Yeah.
had an affair.
Yeah.
This creates a legacy. So it's not like, oh, my kids don't know about it if you have
Yeah,
kids and that
right.
kind of stuff. This is, sometimes I don't understand exactly how legacy works, but it goes down to the next
Yeah, it
generation.
does.
That's so true. It's so weird, right? It's just like sometimes you're
Weird.
like, no, there's no affairs in my family. And then when they go back and they ask, it's like, oh, wow. It's the weirdest thing.
It's
It
weird.
is. It really is.
It is fascinating.
Mhm. And the
You know,
idea
I
that
still,
nobody knows, you know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm thinking about all the adult clients that I see who've had parents who've had affairs and how that scarred them.
Yeah.
It left, like, 40 years later, they're still talking about it.
Right.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because then it hurts their ability to trust in relationships. They
Absolutely.
start to kind of
Absolutely.
expect that that's just going to happen. And so they guard themselves and they try not to get
Yes.
too close because the ripple effects are really, really big.
Mhm.
And I think we have in our culture right now, and I don't see it going backwards anytime soon. We have Ashley Madison site, and a lot of women are on that site. It's not just men. And
Mhm.
they're going there. It's for married people who want to have affairs and don't want relationships. I mean, like that's like the, you
Right.
know,
Mhm.
and so I don't see that going backwards in
Mhm.
any way. And I think that the unknown costs and consequences are there whether you're caught or not. They just are.
Mhm.
And yeah, you want to really be looking at what's going on with me that I'm thinking this. What, like,
Mhm.
why do I want to, head out? And if so, but what if you're a woman who you're really unhappy, you have tried talking to your husband, or your wife, you have said, listen, I'm unhappy, we need to make these changes, and your partner is like, no, I'm not making these changes.
Mhm.
And let's throw another monkey wrench in there, where let's say your partner is the breadwinner and you're not making money and you're really unhappy. Well, what then? Don't they deserve to be happy? Does that make it okay?
Well, I think what you said before, Lisa, is nothing makes the affair okay. It is, though, if they say no, or I'm not going to do anything, or tough shit, then what are you going to do on your side of the fence?
Yeah.
Again, you said you can say, okay, I'm going to need some time to think this over, or I want you to know I'm going to think about having an affair, or like,
Mhm.
but you work in the GPS in truth and integrity.
Right.
Mhm.
And if that happens, like, if that's your situation, if you're struggling, you don't have a lot of support, you don't have a lot of money,
Mhm.
then what you want to start doing is figuring out slowly how can you start
Mhm.
managing and solving those problems. So there's a lot of jobs that you can get online. There's, you want to figure out what your finances are. You can talk to a lawyer and figure out, if you've been married, for so long, you're going to get 50% of the income. And so you want to really slow it down and be like, I I'm maybe stuck now in this moment, but I'm not stuck always. So let me try to let me get into therapy. Let me work with somebody to help me get out of a stuck place. Let me, have a conversation with my spouse around finances. if that's an issue, like I want, we need to work about finances. Maybe you're going to open up your own bank account. There's lots of things that you can do that you want to be thinking about that is going to protect you internally and externally, right? Is going to give you that high, feel good about yourself. Just the integrity piece and the legacy piece. And if it gets found out your marriage anyway, or you're going to be really distrustful, hell. So you want to slow that down and start looking at what are the issues that's leading me out there and what do in here first to try to fix them.
And I just want to throw this in. It may be a little bit off of what we're all saying, but I have experienced in my office, women who have tried to get out of the marriage, women with kids who were dependent on their husbands for financial support. And what I have found through the court system, women often really get screwed. They really do. It may appear like it can all work out, but often, especially if the husband has a lot of money, the women are not really able to take care of their families by themselves, even with whatever child support they get. And I don't know what that is. It sounds like the law is 50-50, but when it comes down to it, it does not work out that way. And some women really get very stuck.
Yeah. I think what's hard, like even when it's 50-50, if you have a partner who's not going to play fair and
a lot of them
people,
don't, because they're mad, they're angry.
Right.
A lot of the men don't, they want everything to stay as is. They're not the ones unhappy, it's the women who are unhappy. So they're angry and they don't want to support. They want to punish and withhold. They feel hurt and victimized, and so they're like, you want to leave, fine, go,
but I'll take everything and I'll take the kids and
I'll take whatever I can get and see how you like it. It's very painful to watch that.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent example of life is complicated. Decisions are complicated. Right? If you are married to somebody who is just an SOB, and they're going to hurt you and they're going to make sure that your life is hell, that's a very tough situation. That's a tough situation.
I think one of the things is to keep in mind, there isn't like a perfect, like I find that women, if it's that kind of a situation, or it's any kind of situation, it's kind of like they're waiting for like a good solution.
Yeah.
That would work better. And it's kind of like, unfortunately you have like several bad, they're not great. Like they're not going to feel good.
Right.
Kind of thing.
But so with that, and this is the hard piece, like this is the grounded powerful strength, right? A grounded powerful strength, you build it inch by inch. And you don't want to be in a situation where you are trapped. And if you are in a situation where you're trapped, you want to start thinking inch by inch, how the hell do I build myself out of here, right? Who do I need to speak with? What do I need to get a job? What kind of supports do I need to have? What do I need to do in secret? Like, do I need to get a secret bank account that he doesn't know about or she doesn't know about? Or what do I need to do where I'm going to feel like I'm in integrity? I'm going to feel like I'm not, harming anybody as best I can, myself or my family or others. And what's that process going to be for me? And that's going to look different for everybody. If I could speak to every woman before they ever got married, what I would say is, listen, this is the most important decision you are making in your life. Do not choose this lightly. This isn't about, oh, I want somebody who's cute, or I want somebody who's this, like, I want somebody to take care of me. You're making a life decision to really choose somebody who's healthy, who's safe, who's, you know, emotionally going to be able to show up for you. Like, that's, so you're not in with somebody who's going to, you know, destroy you should the relationship fall.
I cannot tell you how many women I have who, you know, come into this, like they decided to be in the affair, they're thinking about being in the affair, and you know, and they're talking about whatever about their partner, and I'm like, did this suddenly come up? And they're like, oh no, like I knew this before we got married. They were an addict, or they were this, or they weren't very communicative, or that, you know. And so to your point, Lisa, it's kind of like, well, if you see that, that's not going to get better.
Right.
You know,
Right.
that's going to be what you get.
Right.
And,
It's going to get
you know,
more intensified. Yeah.
so get over the, oh, for me, I'm special and he'll change. It's not true.
No.
You know,
No.
and
'Cause
that's
it's not about you. It's about
Right.
him. It's not
Right.
about you.
Well, and it's the other thing is that's whether it's your partner or the affair partner. Like if you decide
Right.
to affair with someone, they, you know, all you're seeing is their good parts because that's all you see.
Yeah.
You
There's
don't
all the
have to-
shitters in the other relationship.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, you know, usually we pick people who are equally as dysfunctional if we haven't actually figured out what's happening for me, like you said, Lisa.
Right.
Go to your own therapy, figure out what you need to do. How do you do it inch by inch? What do you need to grow in terms of your GPS
Yeah.
and your own health? So that then you can make a healthy decision,
Right.
sort of thing, rather than, oh, the affair partner will save me.
Right. And I want to say, you know, I hope, I don't want, if anybody's having an affair, I hope you're not feeling shamed by us in any way. Like I've said, I have seen so many men and women who have had affairs, and they almost always are caught at some point or other. It almost always comes out, and both sides feel terrible. I like, you know, if somebody cheated and they're caught and they don't have remorse, we've said this before, that's a huge red flag. But most have remorse. Most feel bad, and they have to live with that, and it's a tough thing. Recovery from an affair is 3 to 5 years at best. 3 to 5 years of, you know, a lot of work. And so if you are if you're in an affair, listen, we get it that it's complicated. We totally get that sometimes life is really hard, and you think that the only way for you to be happy is to do this thing. And what I would say to that is, it may leave you happy in the moment, but the long-term after effects are more than you ever even think about before you get into that affair. And if anything, we just want everybody to be aware of the stuff that's not talked about, the pain, the hurt, the kids like looking at, like, not even, they don't even want to look you in the eyes, of them like refusing to talk. They go with, if the marriage doesn't work, they go with the other parent because they're so mad at the one who cheated. There's like lots of things that you just want to be slowing down and paying attention to. The other thing I have seen, when, if your marriage is really unhappy, what I have seen is somebody who steadily for years wouldn't do the work, wouldn't change, wouldn't listen. All of a sudden, when their partner is saying, I'm leaving you, they have done an absolute turnaround. And I've seen people really who were jerks for most of their marriage, when they knew that they were actually going to lose their spouse, they totally stepped up and did some serious changing. So before you think that the only way for you to have joy and the only way for this, you know, is to go outside this marriage, you want to make sure that in this marriage, you were very clear that this marriage is going to end if your partner doesn't change, that you are going to be leaving it, or you're going to You're going to be seeing other people if this marriage doesn't change. And you might be really surprised at how much your partner is willing to shift. Only if you can't say that as a threat. You can't say that to scare them. If you literally are thinking, I need to go outside this marriage to have an affair, honestly, go in this marriage and tell your partner that you're going to leave it if it doesn't change, and be willing to leave it if it doesn't change, and see if they show up. That's like, you might be really surprised. What do you guys think?
Well, I was just thinking about, you said it earlier, Lisa, the idea that these are hard conversations.
Yeah.
And what we're saying is, yeah, you have to have a hard conversation. But it's not about, I think usually up until this point where I'm thinking of having an affair, it's why don't you, why don't you, why don't you, why don't you?
Yeah.
And here you're talking about, I don't know what you're going to do, but this is what I'm going to do.
Right.
And you show up however you show up. Like you said, I'm not doing it to make you. I can't make you do anything.
Right.
I can just tell you what I'm going to do in the face of what's happening.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to do it in an unhealthy way and have
Right.
all of these adverse consequences ultimately.
You have to really be grounded in your adult self in order to do the things we're talking about.
Yes.
That you can't have the child in you kind of taking over and being reactive, acting out of an emotional need. You have to really be able to think about what you're doing and what it is that you want moving forward. How you need to think about your life. This is not easy stuff. This is really, really hard stuff.
And don't be fooled. For the heterosexual couples, if you're in an affair with a man because your husband isn't emotionally available, I gotta tell you, you think that the man that you're with is going to be emotionally available. Time and time and time again, we get endless women in our office. Men struggle with being emotionally available. And so you're better off trying to work with this husband to get him in treatment and get him working this than you are to put faith in somebody that you're having an affair with. You need to know, dating, I work with so many women who are out in the dating world and they're miserable. Like, it's, if you can have a partner who's willing to do the work in your marriage, that is always the best first step. Or you got to be willing to be strong enough and okay to be on your own and not need a relationship. That's always the best, that you don't need somebody. If you have somebody, that's great, but you don't need it. So be careful about looking outside your marriage in order to have you feel better. That's got to come from within. And if you can't have that in your marriage, then you want to figure out, how do I fix this in my marriage? And if I can't fix it, what do I need to do to find the strength and the resources and the ability to be able to leave it from a place of strength where it's not going to, harm my whole family and wipe us out. All right. These are hard conversations, hard life choices.
And I just want to say, because we've talked about if you're in the marriage, if you're not yet married, you're living together, you're thinking about getting married, whatever, and you're thinking about having an affair, oh my gosh, you need to go to therapy and find out what's going on for you and what's in this relationship, because hopefully you just wouldn't make that kind of commitment.
Well, and if you're thinking of marrying this person, you're engaged and you're having an affair, don't you dare walk down that aisle.
But I just paid for, I don't care what you paid for.
Right.
I don't care. Like, you're going to lose a lot more in the long run than your $10,000 or whatever.
Absolutely. The greatest gift you can give to yourself right now is to realize, this is not the person for me. I'm unhappy and I'm not going to give my life. I'm not doing that.
Right.
Because are you kidding? You're looking at, the rest of your life, or even if you don't make it for the rest of your life, you're looking at years of just hell. So if you're cheating on your fiance or your boyfriend or girlfriend now, you got to look at what's causing me to cheat. And if I'm blaming this relationship, I better get the hell out of this relationship. Chances are, by the way, it's not just the relationship. If you're cheating, it's not really about the relationship. It's about something that's going on with you. You got to check that out.
Now, I think I keep hearing us say this over and over again. I want to really emphasize it. If you're having an affair, you're thinking about having an affair, you have to ask yourself, why? What is going on that I'm thinking of doing this? You have to, because it's a signal. You're getting a message from yourself that things are not okay. And this may seem like an easy solution. It is not. It's a very destructive solution, but it's trying to answer something that is really bothering you that you're not dealing with.
Right.
The escape version of it, in my first marriage, I started thinking about having an affair. And I was kind of like, okay, what is going on? And it was like, because then I can just pretend this isn't so bad.
Yeah.
You know, I can just pretend. At least
misery stabilizer, right?
Yeah,
I mean, we talk about that's a huge misery stabilizer.
Right. Right. And so, the first part, Arlene said to slow down and ask yourself, why am I thinking about this? And then the second step is, and what have I done to fix it? Right? It's, I'm thinking about this because my emotional needs aren't met in this relationship. Okay. What have you done to fix that? And what have you done? Have you ramped it up? Right? Not in volume, but in actions. How have you actively attacked that issue to try to make it work before you ever look outside?
Right. Yeah, I get a lot that, but I begged and I begged and I begged. I'm like, okay, but what did you do?
Right. Begging is doing
not
nothing.
Doing anything.
Exactly. Action, action, action. I put the marriage on hold. I moved out of the bedroom. What did you do? On a different note, I don't know if here's one of the things I want to say about this. I'm be curious what you guys think. I believe that, how do I even say this? On a spiritual level, on the level of humanity, we don't do that to other people. And in particular, one of the things that goes right through me is when I hear women say, I don't care about his wife. That's his, you need to care about his wife. We as women, we need to care about each other. And we need to treat other women how we would like them to treat us. And if you don't want another woman going after your husband, you shouldn't go after another man's wife. I just feel like you want to slow that down and really think about that other family and that other woman and their children, because they are human beings and they are important. And because I personally would want other women and people to think about your family and you. That's just from a kind of spiritual humanity place. Slow it down. And that's the piece where when women or men cheat, that's the piece that eats at them because they didn't slow that down.
I think just emphasizing, we've said it and said it and said it, but it just, when you were talking about slow down, I can't, it's kind of like really look at what are my values? Who do I want to be? And does this go along with that? Right. Rather than, like you've been saying, Arlene, that sort of addictive moment.
Yeah. And, along with that, if you don't believe in monogamous relationships, listen, we are in an age and time right now where that's fine. You don't believe in it, but don't get in one. And then not act monogamous. That's the thing. You want an open relationship, you have that hard conversation. You might be surprised, right? You want to swing, you want to do whatever. That is your right. You can choose that, but you have that honest, hard conversation. Once you need to hide things, you're out of integrity. Once you need to keep secrets, you're out of integrity. The reason, like the justification, like justifying that, oh, you're not in a happy marriage, that's why you have to go out, does not make being out of integrity okay. And so slow it down, slow it down. You will save yourself a lot of heartache and pain if you slow it down in the beginning before you ever even start. If you've already started, you got to slow down and really tune in. How am I feeling when I'm not in the midst of having hot sex and going out and having, my affair partner tell me how wonderful I am, and I'm in the quiet at home? How do I feel in that moment? Don't numb out to it.
I think that's very big. Know how it feels to you.
Yeah. And not in the high moments. We already know the high moments.
Yeah.
You want
high moments, you are drugged. You don't
Right.
know what you feel.
Right. All right. So challenge. What's the challenge for them?
Think before you leap.
Yeah.
Think about what you're doing. Think about the consequences. Think about why. Think about what this is supposed to solve and what other problems it can create. That would be what I would want for you to do.
And don't just think about the positives. Don't just think about the gains, what you're going to gain. Take a hard look of what the costs are going to be and who's going to be in your wake. You got to, if you're going to make this decision, you need to make it with all the facts. Sorry, Dee, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, and you kind of hit it there, that part of this thing get through is, who are you impacting? Because this isn't just about you,
right?
Or this affair partner. There's a lot of other people involved. So.
Right. Great. All right, you guys. So this is the Rising Podcast for Women. I know this was a tough conversation. I hope that you're not feeling shame, or you're feeling, if you're in an affair, you're feeling healthy shame, which is, I feel bad about, hurting the people that I love, and let me look at this, but you're not in toxic shame where you're feeling like you're a horrible person. Great people make really bad decisions. And so think about it, slow it down. And when you're really feeling stuck, realize that sometimes we're not as stuck as we think we are. It's our, and so you got to slow down. So if you like this, leave a comment. If you think it's helpful, share it. If you have a question, write it down. We would love to hear from you all. And this is Lisa, Arlene, and Dee at the Rising for Women podcast. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you again for joining us this week. And always remember, you have the power to change the world for women by changing how you walk in it. I challenge you to choose one way to stand in your grounded, powerful strength this week and be part of the ripple of change.